and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance. I am your host, Alacius Inger.
I'm Duncan Sandlin. How's everybody doing today? How are you, Lacey?
I am fabulous. I can't wait to jump into some of the Republican shenanigans and trial information. Oh my.
Oh my, yes. We got a fun episode. We're going to make fun of some VP candidates that are sucking up to Trump. The International Court looks like they're going after Hamas leadership and they're going after Israeli leadership for genocide. So that's going to be interesting to see what the U.S. does, but we'll jump into that. We'll go into the trial with Cohen's cross-examination and testimony, and then Trump's defense witness that came up. And then, let's see, Elise Stefanik got tagged on Fox News. We'll make fun of her for that. And Rudy Giuliani had a really, really bad week. That and some Hitler stuff. So, we'll do all that today and more. Yeah, we got some finance stuff.
I love how casually you're like, and some Hitler stuff.
And some Hitler stuff. It's the 21st century in America. Always going to be some Hitler stuff. Anyway, so let's do this. So Marco Rubio, little Marco, I don't know if you remember, he did the State of the Union rebuttal speech where he was the guy who sipped the water. Everybody was making fun of him.
Yep.
So Marco Rubio, from Florida, hated Trump. Now he's, in the beginning, now he's been sucking up to Trump. Now he's pushing to be the VP pick for Trump. They're basically, it's like Miss America for who's going to be the VP pick for Trump. He's been lining him up at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know when the swimsuit competition is going to be, but it seems like soon. But now it's who can grovel the best. That's what's going on right now. And Marco Rubio is on MSNBC, or on NBC News, Meet the Press, and he's showing his groveling ability and his ability to just flat out lie in service of Trump. So we're going to watch a minute of this because it's hilarious.
Senator, will you accept the election results?
Hillary Clinton said the election was stolen from her and that Trump was illegitimate. Kamala Harris agreed.
Senator,
we have Democrats now.
Yet another major Republican senator lobbying to be Donald Trump's vice president.
So this is Pondering Politics that he was covering. I wanted to open with that because, simple question. Will you accept the election results? The obvious answer is yeah. Right?
Okay, can we just, have a moment where we recognize how really freaking strange it is that that's even a question that would be being asked of potential presidential and vice presidential candidates?
Oh, it shouldn't be. No, it's so stupid. But that's the thing, is with Trump, he's been lying about the election being stolen. He said the 2016 election was rigged, and he won that one. He said the 2020 one was rigged. I mean, they're all rigged, right? If he doesn't win, it's rigged. If it doesn't go the way he wants, it's rigged. But that's what they're asking Rubio. And what is he? Oh, Hillary, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's bullshit, and I'm going to show you why that's bullshit in a minute. But I just wanted to get into it. So here he is at Pondering Politics, and he's going to cover this a little bit. But we're going to jump into this because I think this is a weird back and forth between them.
But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. All right, friends, this is yet another sign of the troubling trajectory of the Republican Party into full-bore fascism. By my count, this is the third Republican senator, major Republican senator, who is refusing to commit to accepting the results of the upcoming election as part of an audition to be Donald Trump's vice president. First, you had Tim Scott from South Carolina, J.D. Vance of Ohio, and now Marco Rubio of Florida. So we're going to play this clip and unpack it together.
Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter what happens, Senator?
No matter what happens? No, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
Senator, no matter who wins.
I think you're asking the wrong person. The Democrats are the ones that have opposed every Republican victory since 2000. Every single one. It's Hillary Clinton.
No Democrat has refused to concede. Hillary Clinton conceded. Senator, will you accept the election results?
Hillary Clinton said the election was stolen from her and that Trump was illegitimate. Kamala Harris agreed.
Senator,
we have Democrats now.
Senator, she conceded the election. She said that Trump was illegitimate. She said that the election had been stolen. Kamala Harris agreed. By the way, there are Democrats serving in Congress today who in 2004 voted not to certify the Ohio electors because they said...
Okay, so let's get into some of that bullshit.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's just a gish gallop of bullshit. So... here's the deal. This is the Cato Institute. So, have Democrats said that elections have been bullshit before? Sure. Sure they have. But there's context. That's the thing. Context is so important. Yes, Democrats have called some elections illegitimate, but the GOP election did was far worse. Okay, so they do the well, Democrats do it, right? But Hillary, but Stacey Abrams, Al Gore, blah blah blah. Anti-Trump types are willing to concede that Trump's claims about the 2020 steal were baseless, but they insist the problem exists on both sides, and that it's rank partisanship, not to mention hypocrisy, to claim that the Trump blah blah blah. So, 2016 race. The Republicans' favorite smoking gun relates to the 2016 election are a couple of video clips of Hillary Clinton expressing the view the election was stolen from her or that Trump was an illegitimate president. The thing to note is that Clinton's comments were made in 2019, 3 years after the election. She said that. And what she said it in regards to was the Mueller report. She didn't say it was illegitimate election or Trump was an illegitimate president that was stolen from her by like Trump or something like that. She said it was because of Russian interference, which Mueller's report showed. Right? That's what she was referring to, was Russian interference in the election. And that Trump was trying to work with the Russians. We know that. They just didn't do it. Because they were too incompetent. That's why he wasn't really guilty of that. Was he guilty of obstruction? Oh, fucking yay. Yeah, he was. Totally. But working with the Russians directly? No, because they tried to, but they screwed it up every time. That was what was so funny about that first impeachment hearing. In fact, it was Cohen was so stupid. Michael Cohen was his attorney at the time. They were trying to get a hold of, I can't remember, it was like a finance minister for the Soviet government, or the Russian government. And he mistaken, because the guy had the same name as a weightlifter. And so he was trying to get in contact with the professional weightlifter instead of the finance minister, because he confused the two guys. That's how incompetent Trump's people were. They were trying to collude with Russia to manipulate the election, and they were contacting the wrong guy. They were contacting a weightlifter instead of the actual minister. I mean, that just cracks me up. I mean, you can't even double check that shit. So that was like one where there's that there. I mean, so Hillary's, when she's saying illegitimate and all that, she's talking about Russian interference. Okay? Completely different than saying the election was rigged by her opponent. Or that it's bullshit or immigrants are stealing stuff that's fake. She's talking about something that was actually real that happened. Right? So when he says that, it's all horseshit. And then Al Gore also said that he felt he would have won in 2000 against Bush, and he might have with the Florida thing, but the Supreme Court ruled and Gore conceded right after the Supreme Court ruling because he didn't want to divide the country. Hillary Clinton conceded the day after she lost the election from Trump. Even though she won the popular vote by 3 million votes, they lost the Electoral College. She conceded. That's the difference. As where Trump's and Rubio, they're talking about, well, no, we're not even going to concede. We're going to overthrow the government and rebel or whatever the fuck they're doing. So we'll jump in and watch a little bit more because this is how bad they have to tap dance and suck up to Trump.
Said those machines have been tampered with, and you have Democrats now saying they won't certify 2024 because Trump is an insurrectionist and ineligible to hold office. So you need to ask them. I think have you ever asked the Democrat this question on your show? I bet you've never asked the Democrat that question.
Senator, you voted to certify the 2020 election, and here is what you said on that day that you voted to certify the 2020 election.
Yeah. Democracy is held together by people's confidence in the election and their willingness to abide by its results.
So by your own definition, are Donald Trump's claims undermining Americans' confidence in democracy, given that he has not conceded the last election and he just said in recent days twice that he won Minnesota, Senator?
I think what undermines people's confidence in the election is when you have places like Wisconsin with over 500 illegal drop box locations, when you have places like Georgia.
Okay, I'm up. So it's just, what about bullshit? What about Hillary? What about this? What about that? We've done this before. It's like a bank robber in trial. Did you rob the bank? Well, yeah, but what about Al Capone? What about Bonnie and Clyde? What about them? You got to find me not guilty. See, everybody does it.
God, you know what? I have to tell you. When my students do stuff like that and try to, just suddenly start talking to me about the other kid,
right?
That doesn't fly. It absolutely doesn't fly. I have no idea why these guys seem to think they can do it.
Right. Well, this person did it. Why can't I? It doesn't float. It doesn't. Not in real life. You're still responsible for your actions, numbnuts. But this is just, it's just a gish gallop of what about bullshit, because he can't say the truth, which is, oh yeah, I'm a hypocrite and a liar and I'm sucking up to Trump, so I have to lie and be a bootlicker. So instead of admitting that, which of course he's never going to admit, he's going to go, well, what about this? What about that? What about that? It's got to be a distraction, right? Look at the other hand, right? The one I loved too was he threw this in, and I was like, he was like illegal ballot boxes or drop boxes in Wisconsin. And I'm like, what the fuck was that about? I actually looked it up because I was curious. This is what it was. So Wisconsin Republicans changed their tune on ballot drop boxes ahead of state Supreme Court ruling. Okay, so basically in Wisconsin, they have drop boxes where you can drop your voting pamphlet off, and then somebody comes and picks them up, right? It's just a big lockbox. So if the Wisconsin Supreme Court reinstates the broad use of ballot drop boxes, Republicans in the key battleground states say they'll be prepared to encourage their voters to use them in this year's election. Wisconsin Republicans say it will be one part of a multi-pronged approach in anticipation of the expanded use, blah, blah, blah. But the whole point was, here, the strategy underscores the ongoing shift in attitudes towards early and alternative voting methods within the GOP nationally. Republicans, all the way up to former President Donald Trump, had until recently falsely claimed or insinuated that the drop boxes were a source of fraud. So basically, they don't like it because it makes voting easier. And when voting's easier, Democrats tend to win. If you make voting harder, because Republicans tend to be non-college educated white people. That's the majority of Republicans. The vast majority of that party. Those people tend to have a lot more time on their hands than, the rest of us. Because a lot of them are retired, a lot of them are in rural areas, a lot of them are unemployed. They have time to go vote. They have time to go to rallies and put on their Trump gear. Democrats don't typically have that kind of time, right? And your average sort of moderate Republican doesn't have that kind of time. They got jobs and shit. So the Dropbox thing, though, they've had that in Wisconsin forever. That's been going on for a long time. And now the Republicans are saying that it's some sort of fraud thing, and it's not. And now it's up to the Wisconsin Supreme Court to figure out, are we going to take that away or not? But right now, in Wisconsin, once the ballots are out, you can take your ballot and just drop it off at a Dropbox. You don't have to go to a voting booth. And, I know the Republicans, fraud, I'm sorry, I've been voting, since I was 18, and I've only once been to an actual voting booth. And that was the first year I lived in Hawaii, because I did it just because I hadn't registered yet. And I waited in line for 2 hours, and it sucked. And 2 hours is nothing. Some of these people wait 10 hours to vote. The way the Republicans set it up. And what's screwed up is I just voted recently. We had an election in Oregon just this week. And I voted by mail. And you could also take your ballot, because they mail it to you. You can take it and drop it off at the local library or post office or whatever, and they have drop boxes there. And they've been doing that forever, and we never have any election fraud. So this is all horseshit. It's just all distraction. But you see how quickly they lie, and it takes forever. You'd spend hours digging out all the bullshit from these. And that's why they just wrap off these quick lies like that, because it's just a distraction. But that's all they got. But Marco Rubio, and I don't know, I think it's a bad call on his part, on all their parts really, because in all likelihood, I think it's probably going to be either who the rich guy, the billionaire that's sucking up to Trump to be VP, or J.D. Vance is probably going to be the ones that do it. The others, you're basically not like they have much credibility left anyway, but it's like you're selling the last, semblance of your soul for the off chance you might get picked VP by a guy who's probably not going to win. So,
right.
It's just an interesting thing. So, we'll move on. So this, I thought, should have been the biggest story this week, and it barely got any news. And here's the Majority Report covered it. So Israel So far, it's been at least 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, and like over 1,000 Israelis in this conflict with Hamas. But yeah, I mean, Israel's basically bombed them, starved them out. They've cleared out areas in northern Gaza. I mean, just hundreds of thousands of refugees. Lots of people dead. Lots of children dead. They blew up a hospital. Israelis blew up a hospital. You know, Hamas has been equally bad. But Hamas is not the Palestinian people. But the Palestinian people are suffering because of this. Well, the International Court, or the Hague, was saying, look, this looks like a genocide. Israel needs to knock it off. That was a couple months ago. Now it's escalated, and this is what the International Court did recently, and this is the majority report, and they covered it this week.
But here is ICC prosecutor, I guess chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, announcing those arrest warrants.
I can also confirm today that I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023. The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhumane acts. It's alleged that these crimes were committed in the context of the ongoing armed conflict and as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Gaza pursuant to a state policy. Unfortunately, these crimes continue to this day.
Of course, you know, just prior to that, Khan said the ICC prosecution team is seeking warrants as well for the Hamas leader supposedly in Gaza. I don't know if he's actually supposedly in Gaza, but the leader within Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, and
so, yeah. So the International Court issued warrants, arrest warrants, for Netanyahu and his defense minister and the leaders of Hamas. I mean, they're not going to be able to do much. I mean, it's more symbolic than anything else at this point. But it puts a lot of pressure now on Biden, who's, okay, yeah, he's cut back some of the weapons, but he's been all in on Israel, and this has gotten worse and worse and worse. And they stopped counting at 30,000 deaths in Palestine. You know why they stopped counting? Because it's so war-torn over there, there's no ability to count. When you lose ability to count the number of dead, things have gotten really fucking bad. I mean, they were bad if you're counting dead, but... So... But just for you guys...
I'm sorry, they really got me when they talk about starving people as a method of warfare.
Starving civilians, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I see, like, starving troops, I could see that. We've done that before, but that's a little different. I mean, it's still horrible, but it's different. Yeah, no, I mean, this is, it looks like a genocide. It looks pretty bad. I mean, they've been an apartheid state. They've been declared an apartheid state for years. And they had a problem with, that was the interesting thing, was South Africa was the one who brought that up at the UN. And South Africa used to be an apartheid state until the 90s, for those of you who don't know this, where, yeah, if you were black, you were a lower class citizen. In fact, that's where Elon Musk got his money. His father owned one of the largest emerald mines there, and all of his workers were basically black serfs who didn't have equal rights. So that's why Elon Musk is such a fucker. That's where he got his money. From Daddy basically running what's tantamount to slave labor. It's not exactly serf labor, but yeah, but they fought back. Then, of course, what was his name? I'll think of it in a minute. But yeah, they stopped being an apartheid state, but once they stopped, that was what the thing was. They went to the UN and said, hey, we think Israel's an apartheid state. They said, why is that? It's like, because Israel and South Africa, apartheid South Africa, were in cahoots together to help each other suppress Israel, suppressing the Palestinians, and South Africans suppressing the black people, the South African black people. And they were in that together. So it's bad, you know. And the Israeli people are not happy about this. The Israeli people are not in support of this. It's a small regime in that government that controls it that's been a problem. And Netanyahu hasn't faced an election in 12 years. I mean, he's basically a dictator at this point. And it's become a big problem. And that's escalated even further because, and let's go to Fareed Zakaria report this. I thought this was really fascinating. Let's see if this comes up. Here we go. This is what's going on within Israel right now, within their government. And this is insane.
Something very unusual is happening in Israel. Senior military officials have begun voicing criticism of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's conduct of the war in Gaza. Israeli media has been reporting on a weekend security meeting at which the Chief of Staff of the Israel Defense Forces, General Herzi Halevi, criticized Netanyahu's lack of a clear strategy, pointing out that the Israeli military had re-entered northern Gaza, an area it claimed to have cleared in January. He warned that unless there was a plan to set up some kind of non-Hamas government in these areas, the IDF would have to keep repeating these kinds of operations endlessly. Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, has gone further, publicly criticizing the prime minister, pointing out that the day after Hamas will only be achieved by actors who replace Hamas, and declaring that he would not permit Israel to try to govern Gaza.
So that guy on the right, the defense minister, he's also got an arrest warrant, him and Netanyahu here.
Gaza directly. The New York Times reported on others within the Israeli military making similar criticisms. As Anshel Pfeffer writes in Haaretz, these briefings to the press have been synchronized as part as what can only be a coordinated briefing against the prime minister. The reason for these extraordinary dissents at a time of war is that Israeli officials have begun to realize what American officials have been warning them about for months, that without a strategy to create stable governance in Gaza, they will face a continuing insurgency, just as the U.S. did in Afghanistan and Iraq.
And that is the fact. So that's the quick point that the military is upset about and the defense minister is upset about. What's the plan here? So we bomb the shit out of them, we kill tens of thousands of people, we starve them out, and then what? How do they start a new government? How do they start a new regime? Where's that money going to come from? How are we going to build schools and roads and build back the buildings and do all that stuff and create? There's no plan. Why? Because Netanyahu doesn't plan on giving them back that area or the government. He just wants to drive them all out and take it. So there's no plan for what to do with those people. But the point is you're never going to disroot millions of people like that. Not without a nuclear weapon.
My God.
And even then, it's like you're going to end up with the same shit we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Where we funded the Mujahideen to fight the Soviets, they became Al-Qaeda. We funded a lot of the Sunnis and the Shiites to fight against Saddam. We left them hanging in the wind. Right? During the Desert Storm in the late 80s, early 90s. We told them we'd back them. We didn't. We let them get slaughtered by Saddam. We finally went back in and killed Saddam on false pretenses under the whole weapons of mass destruction thing. We went in there. We didn't kill him. We gave him to the people and they hung him. But then what happened? They didn't see us as allies. They saw us as the enemy. And then that's where you got ISIS. Now
what a nightmare.
You got into Palestine to fight Hamas. Instead, you killed a bunch of civilians. Now you got a bunch of teenage kids and young kids without parents. The average age, I think, now in Palestine is like around 20 or under 20. They have no idea of the history.
Wow.
All they know is they're being killed by Israelis with American weapons. So you want to see Hamas 2.0? That's where we're going. And you don't have any plan to rebuild or help these people out. There's no future plan. Why? Because I think Netanyahu just wants to wipe them out.
That might be the whole plan.
Yeah, because they're Zionists. They think if they can get them all out of there, that the Messiah will come. That's what that's sort of the Jewish prophecy on that. And there are a lot of evangelical Christians in the United States that think that if we can get all the Muslims out of Israel, then Jesus will come back and it'll be the apocalypse and it won't matter anyway. I mean, these people really want the world to end. They're fucking psychotic. So I think the ICC is right to go after Netanyahu and to go after Hamas. Both sides are wrong on that one. The problem is I don't care about Hamas and I don't really care about the Israeli government. I do give a shit about the Palestinian people and the Israeli people. There's no reason that they need to get caught in this crossfire, and that's the problem, is they are. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I don't know enough about it to make a prediction. I don't see it ending well. So.
No, it couldn't possibly. However, I couldn't predict either, honestly.
No, there's really no way to know what's going to happen at this point. But let's skip to something more fun. Trump's trial. Donald Trump in trial for.
You are so good at these segues.
I know. You like that? That was my Katie Britt jump. Where I go from depressed to.
Yeah. Good. All right. So what's the latest and greatest on our favorite orange man?
Well, they're kind of wrapped up, but I want to cover up what's going up here. They're wrapping up next week. So Michael Cohen was kind of the big testimony that came in. I mean, he pretty much David Pecker pretty much established the crime, right? They falsified the business records. That was all established by the paperwork. There's no denying that. The payments to Stormy Daniels, to Karen McDougal, to the doorman, those all established by checks, and there's a lot of paperwork backing that up. The question was, what was the motive? Was it to cover the campaign? Because if it's to cover the campaign, that goes from being a misdemeanor to a felony, because now it's campaign fraud on top of that, right? So that was the big thing to establish. Pecker pretty much established that, this was all about the campaign. He did it with pretty good circumstantial evidence. Everybody else who came in after him, the controller and Trump's assistant and Hope Hicks came in and testified, and they all pretty much established this was all about manipulating the campaign. Cohen was the one who can establish it directly because he was talking to Trump, and he did this for Trump. And so Cohen pretty much did that. Well, then they did the cross-exam, and there was a discussion about a phone call that Cohen had where he basically told Trump that, I paid off Stormy, it's done. Right? But he called, and he got the bodyguard, and Cohen testifies, I got the bodyguard, he put me on the phone with Trump. And then they were like, well, but there was this other incident that going on, and did you really talk to Trump? Was Trump even really there? And Jesse Waters is going to cover this, because it looked like this might be the thing that broke Cohen. Now, it doesn't really matter because all the other evidence, but it might show that Cohen was wrong about this or lied about this. This could be interesting. But Jesse Waters on Fox News is breaking this dramatic story.
It's day 18 in the trial for a crime that Democrats still haven't named. Michael Cohen suffering under a blistering cross-examination today. And oh boy, did he fall apart. The prosecution's entire case rested on one phone call that Michael Cohen says took place.
It didn't rest on one phone call, and we have determined the crime. So I just want to clarify. But here's what it is.
Cohen testified that he called Trump's head of security and told him that the Stormy payment was taken care of. That was the big link between Trump and the money. Today it came out the call never happened. Trump's defense lawyers showed Cohen a sheet of text messages on the night he claims he made that call. Turns out Cohen had been getting prank calls from a 14-year-old and called Trump's security chief to ask if he could sic the Secret Service on him. Trump's defense attorney raising his voice, zeroing in on Cohen. That was a lie. You did not talk to President Trump. Cohen panicked, shifted in his seat, voice cracking. I'm not certain that's accurate. But the call logs don't lie. It was a Perry Mason moment. Sources inside the courtroom tell us the entire jury.
Yep, there it was. It's over. Trump's innocent. See? Cohen, they called about the 14-year-old. And the 90-second phone call did not talk to Trump. Blah, blah, blah. According to Cohen said he did. Cohen still maintains he did. Did he talk to Trump? Did he not? Oh my gosh. No, there's a mountain of other evidence. We're going to ignore all that. We're just going to hinge it all on this one phone call. But that was it. It was a big moment. It was the big gotcha. Fox was all excited. MSNBC was freaking out. Terrible, terrible stuff. I mean, this could go either way now, couldn't it? It could. Let's see if this comes up real quick. Up. What's this? Oh. Experts stunned by photo proving Cohen testimony about Trump phone call? Uh-oh. What happened? Donald Trump's attorneys are fighting the introduction of a piece of evidence that legal experts believe could be extremely important for proving the charges against the former president. Prosecutors want to show jurors a photo of Trump with his former bodyguard, Keith Schiller, at a campaign rally shortly before the 2016 election. The legal experts say could prove testimony by Michael Cohen about a phone call he made to the former president about a hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. And what happened? They got the photo. The photo is time-stamped 5 minutes before the phone call Cohen made to Trump's bodyguard. And it's a photo of Trump standing next to the bodyguard while he was at a rally. And what happened was they said, that's what so to say, well, Trump wasn't there, he just talked to the bodyguard. That was the prosecution, or the defense's story. Michael Cohen said, no, I talked to the bodyguard, he gave me the phone, he gave the phone to Trump. And I told Trump what happened. Well, here's what happens in court. Prosecution says, we want to admit the photo, defense objects, judge sustains. Defense says, well, let's say this. If you want to object to this and have this be an issue, we're going to go subpoena the archivist for C-SPAN, which is the government television that they just film everything, right? And we're going to have him come up and get the entire video because there's a good chance that C-SPAN has extra video they didn't air where it's just video of Trump talking on the phone at the exact same time Cohen called him. And we could show that to the jury. And the defense didn't want to do that. They said, okay, we'll stipulate that Cohen didn't lie. And that's true. So the defense attorney said, no, Cohen did tell the truth. He did talk to Trump. They had to stipulate to that. Otherwise, the prosecution was going to bring out even more damning evidence. So that Jesse Waters, it's over, we won. Nope, Jesse, you were wrong. He did talk to Trump. He was all excited, too. Oh, my God. He's so excited, but he thought this was it. So now I want to watch another second of this because it just cracks me. So he thinks he's got the smoking gun, doesn't realize the prosecution's aware of this.
Jury's jaw hit the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And never Trump or George Conway put his hands to his face and stared at the ceiling. CNN couldn't believe it.
Michael Cohen was...
It's all over. See? All over. And then the next day, boom. Nope, he did talk to him. And that's all bullshit.
Oh my God.
He's exaggerating the rest of it, yeah. So Cohen's testimony pretty fucking damning. And it all went through, and they never caught him really lying about anything. He did admit he stole from Trump. I thought that was funny. But that was part of a deal where it was a bribe deal and they were reimbursing Cohen. And Cohen just told him he bribed them more than he did. Which, it's still grand theft. It's still grand larceny that Cohen committed against Trump, which is fine. I mean, if they want to charge him, they can charge him. But the thing about it that I think is funny is basically it's the same shit that he was doing with Stormy Daniels. It's like, oh, you stole, and that's horrible. Yeah, but while I was stealing, I was doing the same shit I basically did with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. We do this shit all the time. I bribe people and we falsify it and call it a legal expense, even though it's not. This is just funny shit to me. So, then it was... Oh, we'll come back here for a second. So then it was the defense. So, after all that, prosecution rested. Defense came up. Okay, so they brought up... I think it was a paralegal or something, and he had some phone call records. It was kind of unimportant shit. And then they brought up their only witness, big key witness, which was a guy named Costello. And Costello is kind of an asshole, and he was sort of advising Cohen when Cohen was being investigated by the FBI. And then Cohen said, I don't trust this guy, because he used to work for Rudy Giuliani, who was Trump's lawyer at the time, and he was a big Trump supporter. And so Cohen's like, I don't trust him, because I think if I tell him anything, he's going to go to Giuliani, Giuliani's going to go to Trump, and then I'm going to be in deep shit. So Cohen didn't hire him, and that's when Cohen ended up testifying with the FBI to try and reduce his sentence. He still did whatever 2 years, but that's what happened, right? So that was what was going on. But this guy was going to testify that, no, Michael Cohen told me that he did this all by himself and Trump had no idea. Trump was totally unaware that Cohen was doing all this. So that's what Costello was going to do. And we'll get into this. So this is Fox, and they're going to talk about the Costello thing.
Michael Cohen's former legal advisor says that he is ready to take the stand at former President Trump's trial and that he can contradict Michael Cohen's testimony. Bob Costello says the prosecution's star witness told him years ago that he had nothing on former President Trump. That conversation came up during Cohen's testimony. Prosecutor Susan Hoffringer asking Cohen, quote, during that meeting, did you tell Mr. Costello the truth about what Mr. Trump's role was in the payoff to Stormy Daniels? Cohen testified on the stand under oath, no. Hoffringer, why not? Cohen, first, I wasn't sure that I was going to hire him. There was something really sketchy and wrong about him. He came with a retainer agreement, and I said, I'm not going to pay that right now. I'm still speaking to other lawyers. So I certainly wasn't going to expose anything to one, someone I didn't know, and two, I was having trouble connecting with. Bob Costello joins me now. Bob, welcome back to the program. Good to see you. So that's your word against his on the stand the other day. What do you say to the fact that he says that he was not being truthful with you in that conversation?
Well, first of all, it's not my word against his. I was there with my law partner. Mm-hmm. Second of all, virtually everything that Michael Cohen has said, and I read his testimony, at least the part that relates to me, is a lie. And I have documents to prove it. He claims that right there in the clip that you just put on the screen that we brought a retainer agreement. Totally untrue. He didn't see a...
Okay, so that's Costello. That's the guy who's going to totally rebut Cohen and tell you that Cohen's a liar. Here's what happened with Costello's testimony. And you want to talk about weird shit happening in court. Here it is. So Costello, let's go into this. Here's Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence O'Donnell's going to give you sort of a taste of how the testimony went. And then we're going to go into, I think, Chris Hayes, and Chris Hayes is going to tell you what actually the substance was. But I wanted to give you a taste of what happened here. Check this out.
Clear the courtroom! Exclamation point. Now, you can spend your life working in courtrooms and never hear those words. Clear the courtroom. And if you have spent time in Judge Juan Merchan's courtroom, it would feel all the more impossible that you are hearing the words clear the courtroom and that you were hearing those words said repeatedly and loudly and most shockingly of all, angrily by Judge Juan Merchan, as we did today at 4:01 p.m. And as I was walking out of the courtroom, I asked a retired New York City judge who was in the audience today how many times he had to clear the courtroom when he was a judge. His answer was what I expected. Never. In a multi-week trial, a courtroom becomes a community. Everyone gets to know.
So he's going into the log. So what happened was Costello kept interrupting the objections while the judge was sustaining him and rolling his eyes and sighing and saying, geez, and getting upset. And the judge said, hey, you don't do that, right? Knock it off. And then he said something about, I can't remember what he said, like, he said something and the judge was like, what did you just say? What did you just say to me? And he said, and he just said, strike that. And the judge said, no, you don't strike things in my court. Only I strike things in my court. Making strike it from the record, right? And then the guy tried to stare Bouchon down. Bouchon said, you tried to stare me down? And then Bouchon yelled, clear the courtroom. Everybody out. And then Costello tried to get up. He's like, not you. Sit down. And they cleared the jury out of the courtroom. And they cleared the press and everybody out of the courtroom. And it was just the attorneys and and he basically had a discussion. They released the transcripts later where he basically told them, this is what decorum is going to look like in my courtroom. This is how you're going to behave. You're not going to say geez to me. You're not going to try and eyeball me. You're not going to fucking, make comments during objections.
You're not going to sit and suck your teeth at me in the courtroom.
But he did that when he yelled at him and yelled clear the courtroom before he lectured him. He did that. The jury saw that. So the jury was already like, oh, fuck. But, so this whole thing, so this was like the big news everybody was talking about. And it was interesting. It's good. It's juicy. Don't get me wrong. I like it. It's juicy stuff. But it's not really the substance, and it's not really what's important here. What's important here is, and we're going to this. What's important here is what happened. What was the actual substance? Was he said, look, Cohen lied. Cohen did it all on his own. Right? So now you have Costello's word against Cohen's word. That's really what we have going on. Well, they did the cross-examination, and the prosecutor got up and questioned Costello, and they pulled out all of his old emails about this because they got warrants. And it did not go well. So here's Chris Hayes to talk a little bit about the emails and what happened in the cross.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Well, after 5 weeks, the first criminal trial of a former U.S. president is nearly over. The defense rested this morning. It called only 2 witnesses. And despite all his bravo and insistences to the contrary, yeah, Donald Trump was not one of them. I mean, we knew that, right? Instead, we heard briefly from a paralegal at attorney Todd Blanchard's firm about phone records before a man by the name of Robert Costello took the stand. Now, Costello is a former federal prosecutor, a very close associate of Rudy Giuliani, the twice indicted former mayor of New York City. We'll have more about him later in the show. And also Donald Trump's personal attorney while he was in the White House, Giuliani, that is. I think it is fair to say that Costello's testimony this week backfired on the defense, though how much remains to be determined. But Trump's attorney's main reason to put that man, Robert Costello, on the stand was to directly contradict and impugn the credibility of the prosecution's key witness, Michael Cohen. But I gotta say, turns out Robert Costello might be the only person in the country who can make Michael Cohen seem even-tempered by comparison. Costello began his testimony yesterday acting like what can be best described as a petulant teenager, rolling his eyes, muttering under his breath, at one point saying that something would be to strike something. Of course, that's not his job, that's the judge. And then after sort of crossing the judge, like tried to stare him down, at which point the judge was like, are you staring me down? Cleared the courtroom. After clearing the courtroom, the judge called Costello's conduct, quote, contemptuous.
So we'll skip some of that because I want to get into the more of what happened with the emails here, but we'll go ahead. So here it is, right here.
Was aligned with Rudy, who was aligned with Trump, so hire me, you'll stay in the circle. Now, Costello says he was just there to offer his legal services. So that's the sort of main battle here, right, over what happened. And today, prosecutor Susan Hoffinger asked Costello, quote, you discussed with Cohen at that very first meeting how connected you were to Rudy Giuliani, correct? And Costello responded, quote, that's not true. Hoffinger then read Costello an email Costello wrote to Cohen 2 days after that meeting, which stated, and we quote here, "I am sure you saw the news that Rudy is joining the Trump legal team. I told you that my relationship with Rudy could be very, very useful to you." Again, Costello's words. The prosecutor also read an email he wrote to a legal partner the same day, not to Cohen, quote, "All the more reason for Cohen to hire me because of my connection to Giuliani, which I mentioned to him in our meeting."
So I want to put that mentioned to him in our meeting. So the question was, did you tell Michael Cohen that he should hire you because you're heavily connected with Rudy Giuliani? No, that's not true. Here are several emails you wrote at that time, which I mentioned to him in our meeting because of my connection to Giuliani. So were you lying to him then? You lying now? What's going on? And there's more of these. There was a bunch of emails that contradicted everything Costello said. Where Costello was trying to bully him and blackmail him. And Costello was doing it on behalf of Trump and Giuliani. So all of this is still being directed by Trump. So what Costello proved is at the end, it was all being directed by Trump. Which is what Cohen was there to establish. Costello just reinforced it. So putting Costello on the stand actually was more condemning because it reinforced everything Michael Cohen said. Because Costello got caught lying. And it was and it got caught that Costello was doing this directly in line with what Giuliani and Trump were telling him to do. So Trump was at the head of all of this. So
this is just all ridiculous.
No, I know. And this was the thing, is everybody was talking about why are they putting Costello on the stand? And it turned out Trump pressed his attorneys to do it. His attorneys didn't want it. Because they knew he'd be fucking a detriment. But Trump thought he'd be good, but they were like, nope. And sure enough, he ended up proving the prosecution's case. Because they were able to pull out his emails. He was actually their best witness.
That's so terrible. I mean, it's good for one side and bad for the other, but like terrible, like that the only, it's kind of pathetic, right? The only real witness that they've got, the only person who really has anything to say, kind of just helps out the other side mostly.
Yeah. It's basically, Cohen's been caught lying in the past, Costello's been caught lying in the past and stuff, so you got the two guys up there. And it's that old riddle where you have the two guards, and one of them always lies, and one of them always tells the truth, and you got to figure out what the door is, right? Well, in this case, we figured out which one lies and which one was telling the truth. Costello was full of shit, and they weren't able to catch Cohen in a lie at all. Cohen was honest about everything. Cohen admitted to stealing. He admitted to a crime on the stand. So, yeah. But they do have one more witness that they could call. And he was ready to go. Donald Trump was ready to go to testify. He kept saying it over and over. Here he is.
You plan to testify in your trial in New York?
Yeah, I would testify, absolutely. It's a scam. It's a scam. That's not a trial.
Why do you believe it is important for you to testify, take the stand in this upcoming trial? And what are you watching as jury selection begins in New York?
Well, jury selection is largely luck. It depends who you get. It's very unfair that I'm having a trial there. It's very unfair that we have this judge who hates Trump and has tremendous conflict, as you know. Tremendous conflict.
See, conflict. See, he could testify to all this. Trump could. And he could testify that Cohen was lying. He didn't know. He could testify. You know who else thought he should testify? Our favorite, Alina Habba. Alina Habba was on Fox News talking about this right here.
A witness could come up and say things that he knows are untrue, and he can't say anything back.
Up until just
seconds
Packman, before the defense rested in Donald Trump's first criminal trial, Donald Trump's former lawyer, Alina Habba, was still on TV, still saying Trump wants to testify. He's willing to testify. He would tell the truth if he testified. He would rebut all of the lies.
And that's true. She was up there saying it. Let me skip to it real quick. Sorry. I should have teed this up a little bit better. Here it is. All right.
As far as where this all goes next, what would be in the thought process to testify or not testify on the part of the former president?
Now,
well, he's got to listen to his attorneys. It's not as much what he wants to do. We know he wants to testify. He is willing. He is able. He is nothing to hide at all. He's absolutely ready to tell the truth. Frankly, I think the truth is already spoken. He was in the White House while somebody in accounting booked a legal fee payment as a legal expense. It's pretty quick, and it would be a pretty short testimony as far as the questions that would need to be asked, because he had no part in this. The reality of the situation is that we have this judge, we have this court, and we have a DA who has been politically motivated since the minute he decided.
Oh, so he might not testify now, is what she's saying. Because it's unfair. It's an unfair court system. So for the whole trial, for five weeks now, they've been doing this trial. Trump's been like, I'm going to testify, I'm going to testify, I'm going to testify. However, the defense rested, and Trump did not testify. And he's not going to testify. He chickened out.
What a little weenie.
Here it is.
Weenie.
Here it is, chickening out.
Both sides have now rested in former President Donald Trump's criminal trial in New York.
Closing arguments are set for after the Memorial Day weekend, with deliberations likely to begin the following day. Michael George has more from outside the courthouse.
Former President Donald Trump did not testify during his criminal trial, but had plenty to say in the hallway outside the courtroom.
So he got out and bitched and made some racist remark about the judge being from Colombia. that was all it was. So he didn't testify. He chickened out. I wanted him to testify so bad, too.
It's just so pathetic. I almost have nothing else to say really other than how pathetic it is.
Well, it was a smart move. The problem is that you shouldn't be saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, oh yeah, I'm going to testify, I'm going to testify, I'm going to testify, and then I'm not going to testify. But he always does that. He always chickens out at the last second. This is why, like, everybody talking about the debate with Biden in June, and he's accepted that he'll go in June, and I'm like, he's not going. I'll bet you he wusses out at the last second and makes up some bullshit excuse. Well, it's not fair, and it's, they're being mean to me, and I'm the victim. Crybaby shit. He's such a spoiled brat.
I'm gonna take my ball and go home.
Yeah, pretty much. He's just such a crybaby. But yeah, that's what's going on with that. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll come back and do some clips. Okay, so we're back. All right, so let's do some fun clips. So the VP race for Trump is still real tight, so they're still battling it out. Like I said, I still think it's probably going to be J.D. Vance or the billionaire. But the one person, and so we did Marco Rubio earlier, but Elise Stefanik is also up there, which I thought was weird. So if you guys don't know, she was all the Democrats on, everybody on MSNBC pretty much protested that. So they renounced her contract. They got rid of her, so she didn't get that. So now she's vying to be Trump's VP. Now, she goes on Fox News, basically trying to suck up to Trump, and that's what she's been doing lately. And the Fox host brings up some stuff from her past, and she loses her mind. It's great. It is phenomenal TV. Kudos to Fox on this one.
I want to talk to you about the Veep stakes. Your name is continually thrown out as being on the short list potentially, that this trip may be part of an audition. The New York Times did a lengthy piece where they talk about your transformation, they say, from somebody who was not supportive of President Trump to somebody who is full-throatedly supportive of him. They say you called him a whack job at one point, and they add this. In August 2015, she told a New York radio station that he was insulting to women and that his candidacy would hurt the party's efforts to attract female voters. According to her former friends, they continue, she thought Mr. Trump was too awful and ridiculous to be taken seriously. Her revisionism still shocks those who have known her the longest and who remember the disdain she expressed for Mr. Trump back then. So the question is when, more importantly, why did you change your mind about President Trump?
Well, Shannon, it's a disgrace that you would quote the New York Times with nameless, faceless,
but they're quoting your
sources.
Friends, so I'm giving you a chance to respond to
Shannon,
that.
Shannon, they're not quoting my friends. Those names are not included because they are false smears. I was attacked.
To be
as
fair,
the
there are a number of names of people. Just to be fair, there are a number of names of people who are quoted in the article.
Shannon, let me
People
correct
can read it
you.
for themselves.
This is a This is a false smear, and let me tell you a fact, Shannon. In 2016, I was attacked as the only elected Republican from the Northeast who voted for President Trump. Democrats spent hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking me for that fact. So to say that I didn't support him is just false. I have been proud to be one of the strongest supporters, going back to when he ran for 2016, which was when it was my first re-election to the House. I have strongly supported him. He is going to be the next president of the United States. The American people know that. My constituents know that. And I'm proud to be one of his strongest allies in Congress. I have always put my district first, New York 21 first, and America first. And this is an opportunity for us to stop the
Look at the face of this other woman, like, yeah, bullshit.
failures of Joe Biden and elect a president who led to a booming economy, a strong national security. But my record speaks for itself, Shannon.
But let me ask you.
My record stands for itself.
Let me ask you, though, because they quote you on a radio station calling him insulting to women. Is that a misquote? Did you not say that?
I said the statement that the Democrats leaked out in 2016, that was insulting. However, Shannon, I stood by and supported him, and I strongly support him. And he has done so much to promote women in senior positions, as well as promote women's economic opportunity.
I think she's about
to... just grab him by the pussy, right?
Yeah. I think she's about to blow a brain vessel here.
Oh my God.
No, I support him. No, I never said any of those things. No.
She doesn't even believe herself.
No. Look at her eyes like twitching. No. I have no career. All I've got left is to suck his dick. Please, don't take that away from me. It's Fox. You're supposed to be friendly to me.
Oh my.
And I love just gish gal. No, I always supported him in 2016, and you know. It's just embarrassing. It's so fucking good, though. I mean, you have to admit that's hilarious. So let's watch the last little bit of this. It's just go ahead.
Well, and this is on Fox News at that.
This is Fox News. Watch the last little bit.
That we experienced under the 4 years of his administration. So I've been proud to support him. It's a disgrace that you would take a New York Times article and just read negative quotes when the reality was I was the only Republican elected woman from the Northeast who voted for him in 2016, who has strongly supported him. And I'm proud to be one of his strongest allies today.
Okay, we know where you are today. Folks can go read that article for themselves. There are plenty of names, people who went on the record, and we'll leave it there. Clearly, you are supportive of him now, and we will track and follow where you are on the campaign trail.
I was supportive of him then, Shannon, in 2016, as you know. So I hope you will tell the viewers that as well, which I voted for him in 2016 and was attacked for doing so.
Okay, that was Brian Delacote.
God, she can barely even get those words out of her mouth. Oh my goodness.
She's got to try to keep that fake smile. What are you doing, Shannon? Come on, Shannon. Be cool, Shannon. Anchor's just like, yeah, okay, yeah, We have evidence. You said this on the air. We have you on tape saying some of this shit. We have your friends on record. Come on. Well, I can't believe you quote the New York Times. So, that's what, I mean, we'll keep going through some of them, but yeah, this is the laundry list of VP picks. And really, it comes down to who can suck up the best. He's not going to.
Frankly, like, this is also ridiculous. Everything that seems to relate to him is just absolutely ridiculous right now.
It's just
that trial stuff was pretty ridiculous. These VP picks are coming out pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
With how much they're having to, like, walk back all of these things that they've said,
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, that's
blatantly
the thing.
Lying.
Oh, yeah, she hated him for a long time, and now she's all over it. I wanted to say, was it her or somebody else? I can't remember. Maybe it was somebody else. I think it might have been Elise Stefanik. It might have been somebody else. One of these, maybe it was Elise Stefanik. I'll have to double check. I think her last name was, let's see. Was she? I know she was with Romney for a while. I don't know if Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's just the thing, is it's just so pathetic. It's all the, can we suck up to Trump? I mean, that was the whole thing with when we talked about them all running to his trial, dressed up like him. Right? Which I thought was funny, because there was a joke going around about Trump's like, no, I never had sex with the porn star. Really, it's hard to believe when you had a bunch of dudes hanging out outside ready to suck your dick.
Right.
Oh, man. It's just pathetic. But that's it's the VP race. But yeah, at least Stefanik's she's not gonna get picked. A, she's a woman. B, she's not attractive. And C, she's been against him for a long time, and now she's only flipping now to. I mean, she's just gonna fall on that sword for nothing. So.
Right.
But yeah, other people with problems. Rudy Giuliani, Trump's former lawyer, who's broke. I mean, he just lost that lawsuit. Trump hasn't paid him anything, from what I know. He just lost that lawsuit for harassing the poll workers. Was it Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss? And he lost $150 million, which he doesn't have. He's had to sell his apartment and stuff. I mean, he's in deep shit. But he also just recently got indicted in Arizona for election interference, to include his indictment in Georgia. So he's looking at criminal trials, right? Well, here's the deal. In Arizona, it was getting close to the statute of limitations. So Rudy was trying to dodge it. And he even admitted that and said online, so, yeah, if they don't get me in time, then it goes past the statute and I'm free and clear, right? So he's trying to dodge basically getting subpoenaed by the court, right? Well, did they get the papers served to him in time? Did they? They did, because he had his 80th birthday party recently, and this is what happened. Here's Whoopi Goldberg on The View to tell you a little bit about what happened, and she does a really good job of this.
I love her.
Rudy Giuliani has been mocking Arizona authorities, saying if they don't find him soon, they'll have to dismiss the case against him that he tried to install fake electors to overturn the 2020 election. But at his 80th birthday this weekend, he got a bit of a surprise gift when he was served a summons to appear in said court. Now, guests apparently were freaking out. Some were crying because they were like so upset about this. They were not so upset that he partook in lies about what was happening in the country, but they were upset that he was served. But my question is this. Let me get myself together. I knew you'd appreciate it. Did he really think he could outrun the law?
Oh, yeah.
I think he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yep, he thought he could. He thought he could.
I mean, he was bragging about it on social media.
Yeah.
He must have sure thought he could.
Yep, one more day.
It's sort of like catch me if you can.
Well, here's what I love about it. One more day. One more day is all he had to dodge him. That's it. One more day, and it would have been over, right? That would have been past the statute. One more day. But he had to have his birthday party on air and announce the location he'd be at.
See, this is just the thing with these narcissistic people, and I'm not using that in the clinical sense, just so we're clear.
Right.
But these narcissistic people, they literally can't stand not having a certain amount of attention.
Yeah.
That he can't just, in his mind, be a little like a ninja. Because, okay, let's be honest, we've all had moments in lives where we're kind of like, I kind of need to hang low. I mean, mine have never been like freaking illegal things like this,
Right.
but we've all had moments where we're like, where you kind of probably want to open your mouth, but you know the right answer is just to shut up, be silent,
Right.
and not jump up and down with like glitter and like sequins and whatever. But these narcissistic types, which apparently is a lot of the Republican Party, apparently, just have to wave the flag, look at me, catch me if you can.
Right.
I'm bigger than everybody. I'm above everybody, right? If he would have shut up and stayed quiet for another day,
Yeah.
he probably really would have gotten away. He probably really would have been able to like duck this thing.
Well, honestly, I mean, if I was in that situation and I was really trying to duck the law and everything, I would not be I would be in an undisclosed motel room somewhere, right? I wouldn't be anywhere that you could find me. But he was like, oh, one more day, what's it gonna matter? What's gonna happen? One day, I gotta have my birthday, da-da-da. What could happen? It could never go wrong. Everything's gonna work out, and then it just...
Happy birthday to you.
You're convicted, or you're being served with a subpoena. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
That must have been fun, too, serving papers. I did that. I used to do that in college. Just to serve them, take a photograph.
You know, like the being served papers or serving people papers or whatever, like, I'm not somebody who normally finds that particularly funny. I mean, it's just an item of business. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's just neither here nor there. It's just an item of business. But this one's pretty funny. This one's pretty funny because he was, like, being so flashy about the idea that he wouldn't get served. Like, he kind of has the laugh coming on this one.
Well, yeah, and this is for trying to overthrow an election, overthrow the government. He was there for January 6th. I mean, Rudy Giuliani is just a total scumbag. And there's just some people where they deserve it. I'm like, it's one of those things where it's like, violence is never a good thing. And then you go, well, okay, well, sometimes it's a good thing. Right? Some people just...
It's never a good thing except when it is.
It's just sometimes. It's rare, but occasionally, you know. But yeah, I mean, Rudy Giuliani, I mean, you got this guy, he's just such a clown. Remember, this is the guy that his first wife was his cousin. I always have to bring that up. Yeah, I always have to bring that up. Yep. Yep.
You know, there is a lot more of that than you would think. This is not the first time this week somebody has told me about somebody else's spouse being their cousin.
God.
Apparently, this is a thing.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like, they talk about Elise Stefanik, well, you've changed, or Marco Rubio's changed, or Trump has changed. Or... No, these guys, they've always been like this. Since we were kids, they've been like this. I mean, nothing's changed. I mean, it's all the same shit over and over and over again. But yeah, I mean, hopefully finally they finally get some comeuppance. But Rudy, right now, because he is so strapped for cash, he's got to find a way to come up with cash. But he's got it now. He's got a foolproof way to make money. And here it is.
You all know I stand by the truth. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach.
It's chocolatey. It's chocolatey and gentle on your stomach.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, just put that right next to you can put your cup of Rudy Giuliani coffee right next to your Trump Bible for some good morning meditation there.
Right. And it's easy on your stomach. It's chocolatey. They couldn't do a separate thing. I love the fake kitchen, too. And that fake backdrop.
You'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee.
Okay, FYI, because I had to. I scanned the QR code. You know where it goes? Nowhere. It's not linked to anything. It's just like...
Wait, really?
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere. It's not linked to anything.
Wow.
But he would never lie to you or deceive you or trick you.
Okay, hold. Rudy.coffee. I'm typing it in right now.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. I still love
that goes somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. But
That goes somewhere.
Yeah, but the
Free
link...
shipping on orders of $50 or more inside the continuous U.S. Oh my God! And the picture is him. You gotta look this up. This is funny. It's a picture of him on a beach.
Oh, is it him sitting in the chair on the beach?
Yeah.
Rudy coffee. Let's see.
And like $30 for like a 2-pound bag of his coffee? Like, God, is this coffee gonna like make itself for me? Is it gonna like help me get dressed in the morning? That's pretty expensive coffee. Better be really good.
Wait, let's find this. Let's see. Rudy Giuliani coffee. Where did you see that? I'm not finding his website.
So, his website. Type into your browser.
Yeah.
Type into your actual browser. Rudy. Coffee.
All right. Let's see what we got. Oh, okay. Here we go. Rudy Coffee. There you go. Free shipping on orders of $50 or more. Inside the contiguous U.S. Okay, so screw Hawaii. $30 for
right.
2 pounds is, I don't know. Bold coffee. Morning coffee. Subscribe to our email. Oh, here we go. God, he looks like a vampire, doesn't he? Looks like from the Bela Lugosi movie, right? Nosferatu. That's why I married my cousin. Vampires just don't have a lot of options. Rudy, I guess you just click on these to order them. This is a lame website. And you can subscribe.
Ooh, subscribe and save.
Oh man. I can't even get coffee for 2 weeks. It doesn't ship till June.
I don't want patriotic coffee. I don't want any of my breakfast to be patriotic, if I'm really honest with you.
Yeah, can't I just have breakfast?
Right, I don't, no offense, but I really don't want to be thinking about my whole country as I'm just like drinking my morning coffee and trying to wake up.
Yeah, and to meditate. I still love the backdrop. The fake. Even why pick this? Just if you're gonna pick a fake backdrop for an apartment kind of thing, why have a kitchen with nothing in it? I mean, there's no toaster, there's a blender, there's nothing there. There's a microwave, there's no stove even. The whole thing says serial killer. I mean,
serial killer coffee.
He's just a creepy, creepy guy. I'm sorry I had to do it, but so everybody now you know you can go get Rudy coffee. You can't get it until early June though. It doesn't ship till June. So
all right.
Oh man. Moving on. I'm sorry. I did want to. This came up about a week ago, but I wanted to get into this. I had to do a little bit more research on this. So, Alexandria Cortez was on Alex Wagner's show on MSNBC, and they were talking about reproductive rights and reproductive freedom in relation to the Republicans. And Ocasio-Cortez said something I thought was really odd, and I had to look it up. But I want to go into this clip because they're talking about, once again, abortion rights. It's been a big issue with the upcoming election, and in a lot of the Republican states, it's illegal to get an abortion, and they're trying to make it illegal to even leave the state to get an abortion, and they're restricting the amount of sex ed. They're restricting contraceptives now. They're talking about restricting contraceptives. So it'd be hard to get things like the morning after pill or condoms or things like that. I mean, it's really bizarre shit. And they're talking about, will Trump do that? And he's kind of waffling, but, he probably will if he thinks it'll get his base. But I just want to jump into this conversation. AOC's kind of talking about the Republicans. And I didn't know a lot of this stuff, but she pays a lot more attention to it than we do. So
I have to ask you, because we were talking about children and literally children in meat grinders, from the party that is the pro-family party, the party that this week is facing a sort of crisis as it has pushed the nation towards sort of a Christian nationalist agenda. They have found themselves in the crosshairs of what it means to be sort of a theocratic party on the subject of IVF. It is something that Donald Trump has tried to walk back today. I think he has said, I'm calling on the Alabama legislature to act quickly to find an immediate solution to preserve the availability of IVF in the state. Republicans in the state are trying to mop up the mess. I just wonder what you think the dawning reality of this agenda as it concerns women who are seeking abortions and immediate reproductive health care, people who are trying to build families and need fertility support. What does this do to the Republican Party as we hurtle towards November?
I mean, they know exactly what they're doing. They knew exactly what they were doing by attacking Dobbs and attacking Roe v. Wade and attacking it in the way that they did. They're trying to walk it back now so that they don't look publicly accountable. But I want to be very clear that this was intentional and that this is exactly what Republicans have been going for. We've seen it. You have the Heritage Foundation, you have lots of folks who are on record saying, not only do they want to go after abortion, not only do they want to go after reproductive freedom, they're going after IVF, they're going after contraception. We have a mifepristone ruling that is coming down from the Supreme Court, and Clarence Thomas enriching himself from the same folks who are saying that they are trying to control women's bodies quite explicitly. And going beyond that, they also want to control what they call recreational sex.
Yes.
Recreational sex. This is so clearly a patriarchal theocracy that has embodied itself in the DNA of an entire political party in the United States of America.
So I thought that was interesting because she's right. They're going after all that, but I was like, recreational sex. So they're going after casual sex, just sex, just having sex. That seemed like okay. Look, a lot of people, and I know this is part of the problem we have, is a lot of people when they think about the Republicans, they think, oh, they wouldn't raise taxes on the poor, but that's what they're proposing. They wouldn't really cut Social Security, but that's what they're proposing. They wouldn't really cut Medicare and Medicaid, but that's what they're proposing. Trump wouldn't really, put kids in cages, but he did. They always do that, and it's and they thought that they won't ban abortion. They wouldn't do that, but they did, right? Okay, but they're not going to ban contraceptives. But that's what they're talking about. They're not going to ban sex ed. They're not going to ban, different parenthood rights. Now the whole thing about they're not going to ban recreational sex. And I actually had that thought for a second thinking. And then I realized, but they do everything else. So maybe I'm way off on this shit. So let's go to this. So here's from the Heritage Foundation. Here's a woman talking about exactly what Alexandria Cortez was talking about. So this is the Heritage Foundation. This is a huge think tank for the right. You ready for this?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be weird.
I hear from a great many young women who were put on the pill at the age of 14 and came off it, so maybe 10 years later, and realized they'd done a complete personality flip, and actually they, I was, one said, and I quote, I thought I was bipolar. But then it turned out actually it was just this psychoactive substance that I'd been. What?
Okay, so she's saying birth control pills change your personality. Okay, first off, I can tell you that's total horseshit, and I'll tell you why, because I looked it up, and basically every psychologist has said, yeah, it's not the birth control pills, it's puberty. Because you start taking birth control right around puberty, and in fact, it's more dramatic if you're not on the pill. Because the pill regulates your hormones. So that's insane right there.
And 14-year-olds, and then was on it 10 years later, I was a completely different person. Well, between 14 and 24, you should be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 24 and you're the same exact way you were when you were 14, there's something seriously wrong with that.
Yeah, remember, 14-year-olds are pretty nerdy. They're pretty doofy. But yeah, anyway, I'm just saying that's horseshit right there. But she's already talking about banning the pill, and we're 20 seconds into this. I just astounding to me that we're gonna, because we know for a fact, and I'm just gonna do this summation, sociology, basic finance principles. We know the one thing that lifts societies up, that's more profitable, that's better for economies, is emancipation of women. And the one thing that really emancipates women, on top of giving them rights, equal rights to men, is letting them control their own pregnancy and birth cycle. Not making them be subject to the natural birth cycle. And you can do that with narcotics. You can do that with in vitro, whatever, IUDs and whatever. But anyway, this is just insane. This gets weird.
What are they doing to me? And this is all, and this was all to the purpose of rendering a woman receptive to what is, for the most part, loveless and sometimes extremely degrading sexual access. And I struggle to see in what way that's in women's interest.
So the pill opens you up to loveless, degrading sex. The pill does that. But I'm pretty sure your sexual partner does that. Or your
right.
assaulter.
That's more about choices of partners or having a lack of choice of partners.
I'm off the pill, so all my sex should be loveless and very respectful. It's fucking.
God, if that was just the magic.
No, but you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, there was that episode of it was that 70s show, and the girl Donna, she's like 16, and she gets on the pill, and her father finds out, and he thinks, oh, if she's on the pill, she's gonna start having sex with all these guys. It's like, no, that's not why you go on the pill. You go on the pill to regulate your period. But he's like imagining, oh, that means she's open for business if she's on the pill. No, that's not what's going on. But people think that way, especially men think that way. Yeah, just because she's on the pill doesn't mean she wants to have sex. Right?
No.
It's not how that works. But we'll get back into this psychotic stuff. It's just crazy.
And given the great many other things that, to my eye, are downstream of the entry into that paradigm, it seems to me that a good place to start would be a feminist movement against the pill, and for rewilding sex, returning the danger to sex, returning the intimacy, and really the consequentiality to sex. And a great deal follows from...
So, that's a weird argument. Rewilding sex. So let's take away contraceptives, let's take away spermicides, let's take away all these things that protect people. Let's take away safe sex, is what she's saying, and make it scary again. To where it's more likely that if you have casual sex, you're going to get a disease. Or get an unwanted pregnancy. Let's make it consequential.
Right.
Because that's going to...
And then we can just, call you a whore and, put a scarlet letter on you and...
Exactly. And what she doesn't realize is you can't do that. Millions of people are going to suffer because of that kind of shit. That's why we have all these things. But that's what she's talking about. I mean, it's insane. But this goes back to the main point. It's not abortion that they care about. It's not really even contraception. It's about controlling women. And that women need to be a certain way. They need to be good wives and mothers, and that's it. And they need to keep their mouth shut and stay in the kitchen barefoot, which is why... Go ahead. Yeah,
well, there's also the myth about men and their lack of ability to control themselves. So you see, women have to be fully in charge of, being chaste and virtuous when it comes to sex because men cannot own their urges. You see.
Well, but see, we've talked a lot before about this stuff, and you have male friends, I have other female friends and stuff, and it's pretty much my understanding. There's differences between men and women, sure, but some of it's cultural. I think most of it's cultural, but a lot of it's similar. I mean, typically, if you're a man or a woman and you meet somebody, you know within about 5 seconds whether or not you'd want to have sex with them. I mean, if it's somebody who's really attractive and you're like, within about 5 seconds, you're like, yeah, I'd hit that. I mean, you pretty much know. You're not watching TV and like Shakira comes on and it's not like the second thing that crosses my mind. Oh, it's a good song. No, first it's like, wow, who's that?
I don't know. That's where I think men and women might be a little different. I'm going to say
Really?
I don't know if I think it's always that fast for women, but I won't speak for all women. Women, feel free to, drop your vote on this one in the comments below, just for fun.
Hey, I don't think that when the script writers put into a Hugh Jackman movie that he has to be shirtless, I don't think that's an accident. I think that's on purpose.
I mean, it might be on purpose, but I'm just saying, I think your 5-second rule is untrue. At least I think it probably doesn't really apply so much to women. That's all.
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I still don't think women should have to, not have access to birth control and stuff.
An intentional,
even if it takes us 7 seconds to make these choices.
Okay, so it takes longer than maybe. All right, 5 seconds was just hyperbole.
women's opting intentionally to reconnect with the fullness of our embodied nature.
So that's it. I mean, but that's what she's talking about. I mean, she is actually basically talking about, let's get rid of this recreational sex thing. Let's make it more dangerous. Let's make it more scary.
She just hasn't had any recreational sex in a while. That must be it.
I wasn't going to say it.
Oh, but I was.
Yeah.
I think she needs to have a little recreational sex.
Yeah,
It could be with someone she loves and be recreational, okay? I'm not saying it needs to be loveless sex. I mean, if she wants to have loveless sex, she can have that too, because she gets to choose what she does with her body.
Casual sex is okay. You don't have to be in love with the person. I think that's a myth. But, yeah, no, I'm with you too, where it's like, I'm sitting there like, she seems like one of those conservatives that thinks the female orgasm is a myth.
Ooh, ouch.
I don't know. But yeah, it's insane. It's just insane to me. But that's what it's about. I mean, you think abortion's where they're going to stop? No, they're going to stop with you having protected sex. They're going to keep going to that. Then it's going to be you can't have sex till you're married. Or it's a felony. I mean, it's fucking insane. I mean, they're really it's like Puritan shit. It's like, I mean, this Christian nationalist shit. It's weird. Weird stuff. I just wanted to cover it because I thought it was bizarre. And I couldn't believe it when AOC said that. And then I looked it up and it's like, sure enough, that's true. So, it just seemed like it was too crazy, but apparently it never is. Well, we're going to do one more Trump thing real quick. So he had a little bit of a scandal outside of court where there was an ad that was basically about, well, what would happen if Trump won? And it was like a pro-Trump kind of thing. And his campaign posted, left it up for a while until they had to pull it down finally. And it had some disturbing language in it. And here's George Stephanopoulos on ABC, and he's going to tell you about it.
The president is under fire for a video he posted on social media that used language from Nazi Germany. The latest in a series of anti-Semitic and authoritarian statements from Trump and his campaign. Rachel Scott has the story. Good morning, Rachel.
Hey, George, good morning to you. It is normal, of course, for presidential candidates to share videos with their vision for the country. It is not normal for those videos to have references to Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler. The Trump campaign tells us this morning that this was a video that was shared by a staffer while the former president was in court, saying that staffer missed the reference. But as of this morning, that video has not been taken down.
Former President Donald Trump sparking backlash this morning after a video posted to his social media account seemingly suggests there will be a unified Reich if he wins the 2024 election.
Donald Trump wins. what's next for America.
Those words are largely associated with Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler's Third Reich, another name for his Nazi regime. The 30-second video features hypothetical newspaper articles of Trump celebrating a victory in November. That phrase appearing 3 times, including under the headline, "What's Next for America?" It includes references to World War I, citing German industrial strength and peace through strength. Another headline suggesting Trump would reject globalists, a phrase often used by the far right as an anti-Semitic slur. In a statement, Trump campaign's press secretary says this was not a campaign video. It was created by a random account online and reposted by a staffer who clearly did not see the word while the president was in court.
Yeah, but it still brings the point, which is, this is what you guys are posting, this is what your followers are posting, this is what they believe, this is what they're about. He's got the Nazi vote locked up. And that's...
Right, even if that's 100% true that is a mistake that a staffer put that up there, isn't it kind of problematic that you have staffers that would believe that this is the direction of things and think posting this makes sense?
Well, yeah.
I mean, what is that telling us, people?
Yeah, it's not just the staff. You have your staffer sees this and thinks, "Oh, that's good," and maybe they were totally oblivious to what it was actually saying. Maybe. Nonetheless, it's like you'd think they would have checked it out before they put it on your campaign page. You think somebody would vet something. I mean, I don't put anything on any of my business websites that we don't vet thoroughly. I mean, we make sure that nothing we put on this show is copyrighted. I mean, we go to a lot of trouble to make sure that what we're putting on is factual. I mean, we're not 100%, but we at least do our due diligence to make sure it's not bullshit. But yeah,
we sure try.
Yeah, and we don't have a campaign with millions of dollars. So
or any dollars.
Yeah, I mean, we just do this for fun. So, I mean, it's interesting to me. But that's the whole thing. But it's like, yeah, it just tells you that's basically what they want. They want a Fourth Reich or whatever. You were saying Fourth Reich, I think, earlier today, and that's
Fourth Reich, Fifth Reich. I don't know. Was there a Reich in there we didn't know about? I don't know.
I don't know. Fucking Nazis. They pop up every few decades, and it's just like, I don't know why they picked Trump though. I mean, I know why they picked Trump. Who else are they gonna get? They got to go with what they can get. But geez.
Besides, he's kind of actually an easy target because really the nature of the beast is to stroke his ego. I mean, like, the truth of the matter is I think he'd be really pretty damn easy to manipulate because it's all about stroking his ego and making him feel like a winner and this and that and the other.
Yeah, if people are supporting him, he'll pretty much do what he needs to do to keep him happy. I mean, that was the whole thing with the Charlottesville when they were running around the streets chanting "Jews will not replace us," and the woman got run over by a car by a white nationalist. And there was counter protesters, and Trump was like, "Oh, there were fine people on both sides. It's equal." No, it's not. It's not equal. There's the American side and there's the Nazi side, and the Nazis are the villains. I'm sorry, it's been proven in many movies. I've seen Indiana Jones. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Nazis are the bad guys. I'm sorry. I saw Inglourious Bastards. The Nazis are the bad guys.
Good to know. Good to know.
Just double checking. So, I just think that's fucking funny. But yeah, I can't believe they let that slip, and then they finally walked it back and took it down, but it took them a while. I did want to jump into one more thing real quick. You might find this interesting. I wanted to kind of get your feedback on this too. So, just in kind of finance news, this came out recently from Yahoo Finance. Most people expect to retire in their early 60s. And is that realistic?
Well, that's my question.
Yeah, that's the problem. Now, do I think it should be realistic? Yeah. Ideally, it should be. But is it? We have to kind of look at it. So there's a big shift in how people think about their later years. New data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York shows that most Americans don't expect to work beyond their early 60s. Okay, the number of workers who plan to work full-time beyond age 62 has fallen to 46%, down from 55. That's a big that's 9% drop. That's a big drop. 4 years ago, only 31% of workers expect to work beyond 67. That's down from 36%. 5% still a big drop. The decline span, age, education, income groups. More women than men are eyeing the door sooner. I don't know why that would be, but are these reasonable expectations? Excuse my eye roll. Don't be a dick about it. The blunt answer is that for many people, turning off their paycheck at 62, leaving behind the health care and other benefits that come with full-time employment is a terrible idea. So just to cover this real quick, part of it is, here's the deal. If because we talked about Social Security last week, if Social Security holds and actually grows and keeps pace with inflation, and we were able to do that, this might be a little bit more feasible. You'd have to live on less. And I think that's also part of what this article's missing is you're talking to a lot of millennials now. We grew up in recessions. Multiple recessions. 2001, 2002, 2008, the pandemic. I mean, we have never, up until now, if you were a millennial, there hasn't been a single year in your adult life where the economy's been good. It's been okay some of the time. Under Obama, it was okay, but it was never really good. As opposed to, like, if you're a boomer or Gen Xer, you grew up in the 80s and 90s when the economy was fucking awesome. Right? So part of this is I think people are also sitting there going, yeah, I can live off less. I think that might be part of it, too. Especially after COVID.
I think that's a part of it. I think there are a lot of millennials that feel like they've been also priced out of home ownership and aren't necessarily, I'm not saying don't want to, but aren't necessarily even looking at that as a part of the deal. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of them that are definitely, just consuming less of everything comparatively.
Right.
And so that could be a part of the equation here, but I mean, no, in general, my take is that, I hate that this is my take actually, but my take is that I don't think it's realistic.
No, it isn't.
Because I don't think that people in general are saving and investing enough for retirement. And, my situation is a little different in that I do have a proper pension in addition to what I'm saving for my retirement. So that makes it a little more feasible because I'll have slices of different pies, right? I'll have a bit of a pension. I'll have a bit of Social Security. I have what I've saved, various things. Mm-hmm. But most people don't have that. It's literally just what they can save and their Social Security. So that honestly, and most people are saving very small percentages, if at all, for retirement because they're concerned about making sure they can cover what they need right now. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it has to be impractical, but I think for a lot of people that is.
It is, yeah.
I think if that's a goal, people, need to sort of act and react accordingly and be very proactive at that in order to make that happen.
Yeah, I would like to see like a government pension that you could opt into. It wouldn't be mandatory, but then you could throw money into a government pension and then get sort of a pension payout, and it would grow at some standard rate, whatever it is. I think that would be reasonable, but that would be a tough one. The bigger issue I have too is what really kills this for me is, one is people live longer, like you said, and so it's harder to save that amount of money that you're going to need because it's not like you're going to die in your 70s and you only need the money for 10 years. In all likelihood, you're going to live till your mid-80s today if you're in your 60s, and probably our generation, probably our mid-90s. So that money needs to last 30 years, whatever you save. So it's going to be more dependent on shit like a pension or, something that's a defined benefit as opposed to a defined contribution. Something that pays out a guaranteed amount, right? A pension, some sort of annuity kind of thing, those sorts of things. The other big issue is what really restricts, and this is what I've had to talk about with clients, is what really restricts you from retiring before 65 is Medicare. Because if you retire before that, you've got to pay out of pocket for health care. And I want to get into that real quick here. So we're going to skip over to this article. This is average health insurance rates. What year is this one from? I forget. This is last year, from November of last year. Average health insurance rates by age. If you're in your 60s, you're paying over $1,000 a month for a health plan. That's for an individual. If you're a couple, it's over $2,000. So they've got the list here, but if you get into like, okay, age 16, $320 a month, right? And you go all the way down, and it goes up. 64 and older, $1,100, around $1,163, close to $1,162. But this is basically your monthly premium for basic health insurance. Now, most people right now, they're getting health insurance through their work, or they're paying a little bit in, so they're getting full family coverage for whatever, a couple $100 a month. And I've had clients bitch about that. But it's like, okay, but you're retiring at 58 or 62 or whatever it is, right? And you're having to explain to them, okay, well, that means you either go without health care. You can't go with Cobra because Cobra is going to kill you. Cobra is going to be $2,000 or $3,000 a month. So you got to get your own health care plan. Well, now you're paying for you and your wife or your husband or whatever, you're paying $2,000 a month plus. And if you want to get like comprehensive coverage, where this is just basic health care, that's not dental, vision, hearing, none of that's covered here. Now you're paying almost $3,000 or $4,000 a month. So you're paying $30,000 to $48,000 a year, $30,000 to $50,000 a year for health coverage. That's your retirement's gone at that point. But if you wait till 65 and you can get Medicare, then you get covered under that. Those prices go way down. You could cover a couple for, a couple $100 a month, $200 or $300 a month. And I still have people bitch about that. And I'm like, consider yourself lucky. Because I'm self-employed. My health coverage is freaking expensive. And I'm healthy. And I'm young. Yeah. So they don't factor that in. That's what really kills it. So this is like when I talk about shit like what would be the really great thing in this country which would boost the economy, make it more flexible for people to get jobs and move around and take different jobs and would boost up income. Universal health care. It frees up so much. People could retire earlier. People could quit their jobs and move because they'd still be covered. People wouldn't have to worry about going bankrupt or losing their homes because of like an illness or
more
injury.
people could take a risk on their own creativity, be it businesses they want to start, things that they want to do, because they wouldn't be afraid to pull the plug from more traditional employment because of healthcare purposes.
Absolutely. And especially like people with kids, it's like, they'll stay in that dead end job they hate instead of taking a chance because they can't afford to not have health care if you have a child. Because what if the child
I
is
know
sick?
people that fell on some hard times, and the parents made the choice to keep paying for the health insurance and stop paying for the mortgage because they could only afford one or the other.
Yeah.
And they had kids and they wanted to make sure that their kids were still covered. It's sad to have to make, that sort of choice sometimes in either or situation.
Yeah. Well, that would be my argument for the universal health care. I'm with you, though. I don't think it's realistic at this point in time. There would have to be some big government changes and the big changes in our system, in our retirement system and how we do things for that to really kick in. Because right now it's unrealistic because of the way things are set up.
Or extremely deliberate individuals. They'd have to be individuals that were sort of planning to remove themselves from traditional work from a relatively early age to be able to set themselves up appropriately for doing so.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's practical to just, wake up sort of in the middle of your career and be like, yeah, I'm probably only going to go till I'm in my, early 60s. If you hadn't been really planning for that before.
Yeah, but from a planning standpoint, when you're looking at multiple clients, you can make those kinds of long-term plans like that, but you can guarantee that like a certain percentage of them are not going to make it there, not because of their own faults, but because something happens. They laid off from their job, or they can't get the job they want, or their house catches fire, or there's a death in the family, or somebody has an injury or an illness that you can't foresee. I mean, and then those people just get screwed. And that's kind of how that system works now. And that's what's the problem, I think, is the issue. If we could minimize a lot of this risk and make it a much better economy just by providing some of this shit, like other countries do. Like, why is education so freaking expensive in this country when it's not in other developed countries? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I do think the article was, I mean, he did a good job on the article for Yahoo, but I think he misses the point of, because he's doing the eye roll thing. And it's like, yeah, but part of that's because of the way the system is set up currently. I mean, it could be better. You don't see these problems in Norway or Sweden or France or England or Japan or South Korea. You see them predominantly U.S. because we have this draconian backwards thinking about money, where it's like, if you don't have money, you're not, it's your fault somehow. Or if something goes wrong, it's your fault. Right. So, anyway, yeah, I just thought that was an interesting article. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say on the retiring early bit.
No, but I do think this is sort of an interesting article. And the truth is, the part that I love, I'll go a little optimistic. I love that people have that mindset. I just want people to have that mindset and pair it with, super intentional moves a little earlier in life so they can actually realize that goal, as opposed to, I have the sneaking suspicion that could have been sort of some off-the-cuff comments that haven't had a lot of thought, put into it.
Right. But you got to realize that, yeah, I mean, you're going to go from paying $200 or $300 a month for health insurance to anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000.
Right.
I mean, that's devastating. And I've had that conversation before where it's like, okay, you make $100,000 a year, right? But you want to retire at 62. Okay, but Medicare doesn't kick in until 65. So from 62 to 65, you either go without coverage, which means if you get sick or something, you're screwed. Because you don't qualify for Medicaid because you make too much money. You have too much money. But it's like, okay, so you're doing that. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for Medicare, it's going to cost you $2,000 or $3,000 a month. So if you're still pulling money out of your savings and stuff, you're having to pull out an extra $36,000 a year. I mean, that'll bleed out your retirement savings pretty freaking quick. So, yeah, just things to think about going forward. I mean, part of it is, you got, like Lacey said, if you plan properly within the system, and you plan young especially, you can get there. I mean, there are a lot of ways around it, but it takes a lot of work and some of it, some luck. And you got to be able to make enough money to fund it, and you got to be able to save and live on a little bit less than you otherwise would have. Make sacrifices when you're younger, which is difficult to do.
Right.
But it can be done. My argument would be is, why don't we just fix the system so you don't have to deal with all that shit? So we've minimized the risk enough that it's not a big issue. And you don't have to jump through all these hurdles to retire early. That would be my ideal, but I think he misses in his argument.
I like that plan better as well, because that helps people on a much more mass scale than all the individuals trying to scour for this insurance thing they can pull off,
Yeah, no shit. Of course, the negative to that is then people like me become, our pay goes down, or there's less of us because the government's taking care of you, so you don't need a financial advisor to come up with all these little tricks. But, oh well.
Let's think optimistically, Duncan. It would mean that you could maybe focus on other things rather than people's, base need for medical care.
Yeah, that would be nice. That'd be nice. Maybe I could just do projects and forecasting and shit like that going forward. And that's all we do.
I do think that would be nice.
That would be very nice. Well, anyway, I think that's, God, we're running out of time. Let's wrap up. That's our show for today. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Where can everybody catch you, Lacey?
All right. As always, you can catch me at mysensewithsense.com. You can find information about courses, workshops, and articles I've written. You can send any questions about those items, or you could send us some clips of your own topic requests, articles you found interesting, or invite yourself on to talk with us.
Absolutely.
And where can they email those?
Yeah, email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. It's down below. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you next time.